all my Dear God Journey followers. I hope all is well with you and your families. As always, thank you to those who have decided to start this journey with me and have liked, shared, and subscribed to my blog. Remember, the journey only starts with just 2 words, Dear God. I'm back with my next interview on my segment, In Depth with Diamond, and I'm so excited to have this guest today. She holds a very special place in my heart, and it's my grandmother, Dollie Warren. How you doing, Grandma?
Hi, Darren.
Good. This interview today is super important to me. It's actually something that I went through personally, and my grandmother was pretty much the key to how I got through it. So just to kind of give a quick backstory, when I was 11 years old, I actually went through a super hard time with anxiety, dealing with fear and depression and suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts. But I really didn't understand what depression was at that age. To make a long story short, I was being bullied. I would be super antsy because I just felt like the anxiety issues that I was dealing with, they were built based on fear. So I started being afraid to do so much. I was afraid to go to school. I had lost a lot of weight. I stopped eating because I was afraid somebody was going to be poisoning my food. I got distant from a lot of people, and I went through a lot. Literally, I would be crying before my grandmother would even come in the room to get me up for school. And literally, I could get up, go to school. I would be in school maybe no more than maybe 30 minutes to an hour. And then she would get a call from the nurse saying, you need to come get your granddaughter. I missed over 60 days of school when I was in 6th grade just because I couldn't be there. I can't put it into words exactly what was happening, because to this day, I really do not understand what went off in my mind. And that went on from about October to, I want to say, I started coming around myself around March is when I started feeling normal again. That situation made me give my life to Christ, because I remember telling my grandma, if the Lord allowed me to go through that, the enemy literally tried to take me out when I was 11 years old, because not only was it everything I was going to, but it caused me to make a suicide attempt, because my family didn't know what was going on. My parents were not saved at the time, so they felt like they were dropping the ball as parents. So it was just me and my grandmother in the house, and she was the only person that knew what to do with me during that time. That was the start of why we're so close, because I didn't have anybody else during that time, and I needed her. So this interview is going to be about the importance of mental health, talking and speaking to someone, and more so about spiritual warfare, because it's so important. That was the only way that I got through it. One thing that I've learned when it comes to suicide is that people think it's the most selfish thing that a person is doing. And actually, it's like the person that is attempting suicide, it's like you think so unselfish, because you feel like you're the problem and you're trying to take yourself out of the equation so that way you won't be a hindrance to others. So, Grandma, with that being said, because clearly something had to happen where mentally something just wasn't right. And like I said, you were the only person during this time that could really help me through it. So when did you realize I wasn't being my normal self?
You were the type of person, very talkative, very active, very happy. And I noticed a change in you, not wanting to get up and go to school. That was one of your favorite things to do. When I began to listen to you, I remembered what depression looked like and how it can affect somebody younger. 11 years old, I was 8 years old at the time. I had no one to talk to. So I wanted to be there for you because I know what it is to be depressed. I could see it differently because I knew God. But at the time I went through the depression at an early age, I didn't know God. But I was always been determined to be there for you. So when I recognized what it was, I had to go to God and have him show me what to do for you. And he gave me different scriptures, and we read them. We talked about it. We prayed together. It was difficult because sometimes I didn't know what to say to you. And sometimes you just wanted me to just hold you. First time I noticed when you became clingy, you never wanted me to leave. I said, that's unusual for her to do that. I began to ask God, how can I treat her the way that I wanted somebody to treat me when I went through this at 8 years old? At 8 years old, they called me stupid. They said that I was mentally retarded. Our family was splitting up, and I thought somebody had died because my mother was no longer there. When you were unhappy, I reflected on when I was unhappy, and I began to, don't do that.
No, go ahead.
And I began to realize how my grandparents felt to be there for us. It was difficult for us being separated from our parents. But your parents were, I want to say not there.
Well, they were there, but with me, Mom worked all the time.
Yeah.
So those of you that have saw my previous interview about my dad's life, at times when my dad would be incarcerated, my mom was whisked into being a single parent.
Yeah.
And so they were there, but it wasn't like they didn't want to be present. It was just like my mom at times would have to provide. So she was just always working. And then my dad was actually not in jail during this time, but he was in the streets at that time. So he was there, but he wasn't present with us. He had his mind on other things. And that's because of the type of lifestyle he was living. They just knew something was off, but they didn't know how to handle it or how to even approach the situation.
In my era, children were seen and not heard. Children didn't have problems. Kids were not allowed to be depressed. It had to be something mental. What do you have to be depressed about? My family was splitting up. Something had drastically happened that split the dynamics in our family. That was a very difficult time for me. So realizing that you were going through something like that, I couldn't figure out why, because you never told me that you were being bullied in school. So I couldn't figure out what you were going through, but I recognized the depression, the hurt part. I saw the hurt part and the confused part. You wouldn't tell me what was going on, so I had to go to God and ask him how to make you better. So he would give me different scriptures to read to you and tell me words to say to make you feel better, even if it didn't last all day. So I had to go back and get you and do it over again. We did it over and over and over for as long as it took, until finally, one day, we don't even know when it happened.
Right.
Like it came all of a sudden, it left all of a sudden. But that was the power of prayer. That's when we learned how to pray together. That was, to me, was powerful moments. When we learned how to pray together, even when you would pray for me. You remember? You used to pray for me. But that's what prayer does. It joins people together, too.
Just the power of prayer piece, because, people talk about a praying grandmother. I have one.
Praying for you and helping you get through that situation, it helped me strengthen my relationship with God.
That's big.
Oh, yeah.
That's big.
I wanted you to have the opportunity to know who God is through prayer and reading his word and understanding that he's there.
Growing up, therapy was not supported as it is now, especially, we know all well within the Black community. It was what happens in this house, stay in this house. You'll be telling people what's going on with us at our house. And I didn't seek professional help, through this experience because God ultimately used you as my therapist. Do you believe it's important to have a therapist or to be close to a spiritual leader?
Going through my experiences, I've had professional people, and they told me I was living in a fantasy world. So they didn't give me much help. I was being abused, so I'm trying to tell them what I thought. I need somebody to tell me what to do. Being in that kind of relationship that I was in, I didn't know how to get out. You just can't walk away because it gets worse before it gets better. But you feel like you can't do any better. This is all you have. This is what you're familiar with now. So if I'm familiar with this now, how can I get to know something else? So I feel like I'm trapped now. And going to the psychiatrist didn't help me. One day I asked God, I said, I don't believe this is how you intended for me to live my life. There's got to be something better for me. Things began to change. I began to go to the prayer meetings. I began to talk to people. I began to tell them about what it's like for me. Somebody was listening to me. The psychiatrist didn't help me, but the people of God did. And I began to change on the inside. God began to give me visions and let me see how to get out.
That's so huge because, at the end of the day, I'm in 100% support of, the movement that we have now with, everybody is, going to therapy and seeking help for everything. Things are being talked about now. That space has been created, but it's something even better to say because ultimately we know the creator. Man can't fix everything. He's placed, therapists and psychiatrists and doctors and people on this earth to help us and assist us with this thing called life. But ultimately, he is the one that we have to go to. He is the one who transforms. He's the one who renews the mind and the spirit. And, you have people that may use other avenues. Some people, start using drugs or alcohol or, whatever have you to fix the problem. And so, like you said, the professional help placed here wasn't helpful to you, but those that had a relationship with God and those that are saved are the ones that will be able to help you and rescue you. So just even kind of coming into the answering your question, I feel like your answer would be both because, he places the people of God here to be able to assist you as spiritual leaders and those that are professional. But then you have to remember who is the person that's in control of it all. Right. So it's ultimately the answer is always going to be him. I know through the experience that I went through and even touching on, your similar experiences that you face like mine, the devil is really cunning in how he attacks the mind. And, we call the mind the headquarters. It's a big function in your body. And so I know through what I was going through, it just felt like you said, the fear, because I felt like there was no control over what was happening. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain the thoughts that were going on in my mind, or let alone why they were there or what to do with them. So in this experience, of course, like I said, the devil really had a hold on my mind and filling it with, deception and lies and accusations, that's what brought on the whole suicide attempt because all of those things were filling up in my mind. You're not worthy. No one cares. You're causing everybody issues. You're not going to come out of this. All those things begin to fill my mind. So did you ever have, I know you said you went to God specifically concerning me and how to deal with me and deal with the situation I was going through. So did you ever have any specific prayers that were in concern with my mind?
I asked God when I prayed for you and you prayed for your mind, if he did it for me, he can do it for you. And asking God to restore your mind, he made me realize That was all it took. And that's what I did. Restore her mind. You did it for me.
Grandma, the stuff that you've been through, I mean, this interview isn't going to even do it justice, but everything that you have been through, you know, I always tell you you can write a book.
Oh, no.
Like, seriously. But, I mean, it would have taken people out of here.
It was meant.
It was meant.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy really tried. I mean, was throwing things heavy. Tried, but then God said, "But I saw this moment."
Yes, I thank God he wasn't. That's a part of me that I don't talk about because I feel like it makes me look like a failure. Makes me look like I was a pushover. It makes me look, I was. And all the things that I tell myself I was not, it happened. I wasn't prepared for life like that. So everything in me, after going through all of that, let me know that I went through that so that I could tell somebody else, you don't have to accept all of that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go down that road. You are not a puppet. They don't have control over you like that. You don't need to be afraid of them.
When you decided to give your life to God in your 40s, I'm just like, you just been living your best life. And I always say the definition of your latter days being greater.
Oh, yes, they are.
Because I just believe you're happy now.
I am. And anybody that don't know God, oh my goodness, they don't know what they're missing.
You know, you had an issue when it came with people saying that they love you because of all the things that you were put through by someone that would say that, all the things that you had to face from people that so-called said that they love you. And I know when giving your life to Christ, of course, the Bible talks about how God's love is unconditional, agape love. So it's without any condition. He doesn't, hold you to certain transgressions, certain places, or certain things that you've done. It's without, his love has no limits. God is so amazing. He can, rescue you from it all. Grandma, I have to say thank you. I'm always, not that I feel indebted to you, because you were only doing, what the Lord wanted you to do. But I wouldn't have made it this far. I always try to tell people, man, the enemy tried to take me out of here when I was 11 years old. He tried so hard. And not only just then, but different other avenues. You remember every time from that experience, every time I had a transition, I thought I was going back.
Yes, you did.
When I went to high school, the first day of school, I asked you, am I about to experience this again? Because I'm going through change. So it must be coming. When I went off to college, I thought the same thing. And you told me I would be fine, that I had been delivered from that. And to this day, he has done that. So if you are battling anything, I don't care what it is, mental illness, depression, suicidal thoughts, it doesn't matter. God is bigger than it all. He can take care of it all. I have never seen anything like it in my life. Like my grandma said, as soon as it came, the quick as it went. And it was only because of God. And as soon as I came out of that, I felt like I ran into his arms. And he literally rescued me. Anybody that watches this interview, I just hope that, I'm speaking to anyone in those places. I know how lonely that feels when you feel like you don't have anyone to turn to. No one will listen. No one will understand. I'm the problem. It's not going to get any better. The devil is a liar. He's always been a lie, and he's going to continue to be a lie, because it's someone that is greater than him and anything on this earth that can take care of you and consume you and just love on you and hold you so tight, as my grandma said, wrap you in his arms. And that's who my hope lies into. Grandma, I'm so elated because he knew I needed you in my house. Use your voice. Be that voice. It's important. It saved my life, and I'm forever grateful. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I want to thank my special guest, 'cause she's so special, my grandmother, for joining me. And thank you all so much for watching. Please do not forget to share this. Most importantly, click the link below to head over to my blog and subscribe, so you can get alerts about my new blogs and future interviews to come. As always, remember the journey starts with just 2 words. Dear God, love your sis, Donna Melvin.